Have you ever wondered why a really good story can feel more real than, well, reality itself? Why it can change your mind, your mood, even your body's chemistry? It's because our brains aren't just built to enjoy stories, they are literally built out of them. Our entire sense of who we are, our cultures, our reality, it's all constructed on the foundation of narrative. Okay, let's get into it.
So here's where we're headed. We're going to start with the hard science, how stories can literally sync up our brains. Then we'll jump back in time to look at some of the ancient blueprints for these narratives. We'll also explore what happens when our personal stories shatter. And finally, and this is the hopeful part, we'll look at how we can actually rewrite those stories to heal not only ourselves, but to build a shared world.
All right, first up, let's look under the hood of the human brain. Because this isn't just some poetic, feel-good idea. This is straight-up neurology. Our brains are fundamentally, biologically, wired for story.
I mean, this quote from neuroscientist Yuri Hassan just nails it. A story isn't just a transfer of information, it's a transfer of experience. Think about that. It's kind of like neurohacking, where one person can basically download their mental and emotional state directly into someone else's mind.
And the reason this works is because our brains are built for efficiency. Whenever you hear a story, your brain immediately starts digging through its own files, looking for a similar experience it can hook into. It's why metaphors are so powerful. We aren't just processing words. Our brain is lighting up the exact same pathways as if we were living it, feeling that joy or that heartbreak ourselves.
The science behind this is just wild. It has this incredible sci-fi name, inner brain phase synchronization. Researchers literally hooked people up and found that as a story unfolds, the brain activity of the speaker and the listener start to marry each other. They start to sync up, almost like they're dancing together. It isn't just understanding, it's a deep biological connection.
And this has real, measurable benefits. When we get lost in a character-driven story, our brains get a hit of oxytocin, the empathy or love hormone. That feeling can actually make us more likely to help people in the real world. A good, coherent story gives us a sense of safety and order. And just sharing our own stories can literally lower stress and release healing chemicals. It's not just entertainment, folks, it's a survival tool.
Okay, so we've got the hardware, right? Our brains are built for story. But what about the software? Where did the original programs, the source code for our narratives come from? For that, we've got to go way back.
Just look at these characters for a moment. This is the ancient Hebrew alphabet. These aren't just letters. Think of them as the fundamental particles, the code, from which entire worlds of meaning were built. Some of the most influential stories in all of human history were constructed with these very tools.
And we're not talking about simple campfire tales. I mean, think about the story of Jacob and Esau. It's this raw, messy, deeply human story about sibling rivalry, deception, and this desperate search for your place in the world. These ancient writers were essentially mapping the human psyche thousands of years ago.
Or how about the story of Joseph? When he finally confronts the brothers who sold him into slavery, it's not just a simple gotcha moment. The whole narrative is structured like a profound psychological journey. It's designed to force his brothers to recognize their guilt, to feel remorse, and, this is key, to actually transform. These stories are absolute masterclasses. So, stories are powerful. They build us, they shape us. But what happens when our internal story, that coherent sense of self we rely on, breaks down? What happens when the story we tell ourselves just doesn't make sense anymore?
Well, the psychoanalyst D.W. Winnicott had a really powerful way of looking at this. He talked about the true self versus the false self. The true self is the real, authentic you. But sometimes, to survive, we have to build a false self, like a protective mask we show the world. The problem is, if you live behind that mask for too long, you start to feel empty, like you're living someone else's story. It's a total narrative failure.
And this breakdown isn't just psychological, it can be biological. I mean, we've all been there, right? As Matthew Walker points out, something as simple as not getting enough sleep can completely shatter the story you tell yourself about being a calm, rational person. When you're exhausted, your emotional brain just goes haywire, and suddenly you snap. The plot is lost.
And this doesn't just happen to individuals, it can happen to whole societies. The philosopher René Girard called it a mimetic crisis. It's what happens when our shared stories and rules fall apart. Think about how a social media trend can make everyone suddenly want the same thing, leading to all this rivalry and conflict. When that happens on a massive scale, the social fabric itself starts to unravel because there's no shared story to hold it all together.
Okay, so that sounds a little bleak. Our stories can break. But here's the really good news, they can also be fixed. They can be rewritten. And that, in a nutshell, is what the whole therapeutic process is really about.
One way to think of it is as a process of creative adaptation. It's not about finding some magic bullet to erase the past. It's about learning to become the author of your own story again. It's about seeing each moment as a fresh page, where you get to consciously choose your response instead of just being a character stuck in a script that someone else wrote for you long ago.
So what does this actually look like in practice? Well, here's one technique. First, you have to let yourself fully feel that emotion you've been pushing away. Then you dig a little deeper, like an archaeologist. What's really hiding under there? After that, you become a detective, asking questions about the story's origins. And finally, the really exciting part. You start to imagine a new plot. What would it feel like to write a different chapter? Ultimately, the whole goal here is to take a story that feels rigid, painful, and stuck and open it up to new possibilities. It's about generating alternative plot lines, letting go of the need for a perfect, flawless story, and basically just editing your own life script. You've got the red pen. So let's zoom back out one last time, because rewriting your own story is life-changing. But the real magic, the thing that changes the world, is when we start to share those stories with each other.
You ever notice how myths from totally different cultures can feel so similar? A hero's journey, a great flood. Why is that? Well, one powerful idea is that we are all just humans dealing with the same fundamental challenges. So, of course, the stories we tell to make sense of it all start to rhyme. And that's the bedrock of our shared values, our myths, our cultures.
And this brings us right back to where we started. That brain-to-brain synchronization we saw in the lab, that's not just a cool fact. That's the mechanism for building entire worlds. When we share stories, we're building empathy, we're constructing a shared reality. A community, at its deepest level, is just a group of people whose brains are all synchronized to the same story. So, to wrap it all up, our brains are story machines, period. Ancient cultures gave us the source code for meaning. A lot of our pain and distress is really just a personal story that's gone off the rails. But, and this is the most important part, we have the power to rewrite those stories. And when we share them, we do the most human thing possible. We build a shared world. So I'll just leave you with this one final thought. If it's really true that we are the stories we tell ourselves about who we are, where we've been, and where we're going, then what story are you writing for yourself, starting today?